Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a little video on my Jimmy Wang Yu collection. Jimmy Wang Yu was a Hong Kong actor, producer and director. He passed away over 3 weeks ago, the 5th of April, 79 years old, respectable age. And Jimmy Wang Yu was Hong Kong's first action superstar long before Jackie Chan hit the scene, and even before Bruce Lee made it big. Was a key figure in the development and maybe even revolution of Hong Kong cinema in the late 60s, early 70s. And I think the Shaw Brothers contracted him around 63, 64. Jimmy Wang Yu would do some movies with Chang Che. And in the mid-60s, the Shaw Brother executives wanted their directors to watch some Japanese shambara. They were pretty popular all over Asia, Japanese swordplay films. So these directors could study them and make swordplay films of their own. Now, King Hu in 1966 would release a film that was a big hit, Come Drink With Me, a wuxia film with a female protagonist. And in the same year, Chang Che tried a swordplay movie with Jimmy Wang Yu. It was this one, The Magnificent Trio. The Magnificent Trio was a remake of a Japanese shambara, a debut feature of Hideo Gosha, Three Outlaw Samurai. And it's not as good as the Japanese film, but it's still a pretty enjoyable watch, this one, The Magnificent Trio. Then in 1967, Chang Che and Jimmy Wang Yu would collaborate again, and this film was an instant sensation, The One-Armed Swordsman, a wuxia film, popularized the wuxia film, this one, and made Jimmy Wang Yu a big star almost overnight. A great film, The One-Armed Swordsman. Then in 1967, Jimmy Wang Yu would work again with Chang Che, made another swordplay movie that in my opinion is underrated, and that one is The Assassin, in which Jimmy Wang Yu plays another swordsman, a two-armed swordsman, who goes on a quest for revenge. It's a very action-packed and violent movie, and one I really like. Old Hong Kong released this one, The Assassin, good film. Then in 1969, Chang Che and Jimmy Wang Yu did a sequel to The One-Armed Swordsman, Return of the One-Armed Swordsman. Very good sequel, very action-packed, this one. I do prefer the original one because that one contains the origin story of this wonderful character, the One-Armed Swordsman. But this is a pretty good one and worth a watch, Return of the One-Armed Swordsman. Then in 1970, Jimmy Wang Yu would direct a film himself for the Shaw Brothers Studios, and this one is historically important. It's a classic. It's The Chinese Boxer, and this is the first. It's the one that popularized the unarmed combat film, the Kung Fu film. The Chinese Boxer, starring Lo Li, excuse me, as a Japanese villain, and it's more a mix of a kung fu movie and an exploitation movie. It's a shame that in many of the works of Jimmy Wang Yu, the Japanese are demonized. A lot of Japanese anti-Japanese sentiments in it, but it's a wonderful film, this one I really like, The Chinese Boxer in 1970. And then after this movie, Jimmy Wang Yu wanted creative freedom. The Shaw Brothers didn't want to give him that freedom, the creative freedom, and he wanted to get out under the contract by Shaw Brothers Studios. And Raymond Chow, a producer who left the Shaw Brothers Studios, freed him from this contract, pulled some strings, provided that Jimmy Wang Yu would move to Taiwan to make some movies, and he did. He agreed to that, and in the meantime, he worked on Zatoichi. Zatoichi meets the One-Armed Swordsman, and this was a great collaboration of Shintaro Katsu and Jimmy Wang Yu, bringing together two popular franchises that feature a disabled character, Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman and the One-Armed Swordsman, and it's a really cool entry, I think, in the Zatoichi series. Zatoichi meets the One-Armed Swordsman. Later on, Jimmy Wang Yu had a new idea for a new character. Why not combine the One-Armed Swordsman with the Kung Fu, the unarmed combat genre that was introduced in the Chinese boxer, and they created the One-Armed Boxer. Jimmy Wang Yu created the One-Armed Boxer, and this is an enjoyable movie. I think it's quite good, not one of his best in my humble opinion, but it's still a very good film. Then I think, maybe I'm wrong, in 1973 I think Jimmy Wang Yu would do a movie with a Korean director called The Iron Man. And this is not a particularly good movie, but I'm so glad I own this old Dutch ex-rental VHS tape. I think it's pretty rare. I believe it's pretty rare. And this one is more of a modern day brawler. The choreography, the fight choreography isn't fantastic, but it is okay. And again, the Japanese are the villains. It's about a kid in around 1944, 1945. He witnesses his parents being killed by Japanese villains, and the kid's hand is chopped off. And of course, many years later, the kid grows up to be an adult, played by Jimmy Wang Yu, who wants his revenge on these Japanese guys. It sounds great, but the movie is a little bit lackluster. I also want to say that Jimmy Wang Yu isn't the best screen fighter out there. He had no basic martial arts training in the past, but he makes up for this lack of athletic ability with all the inventiveness and creativity he brought to the movies, using some great movie trickery and stuff to make these fighting scenes exciting. And this one, I think, is below average, but I'm glad I own it. It's a wonderful tape. Iron Man. And then I think in the same year, this is again an ex-rental, he did Beach of the War Gods. And Beach of the War Gods is a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. And again, the Japanese are the bad guys, of course. Jimmy Wang Yu is a sword fighter. Together with his 4 or 5 friends, he has to protect a coastal town, a Chinese coastal town, against evil Japanese bandits. Now, I don't think the movie is uncut, in its uncut form is transported to this tape. It is cut, but at least the last 30 minutes are still intact. It's a great battle scene that I really enjoyed. Beach of the War Gods, a great tape and an enjoyable flick. Then, I think in 1975, Jimmy Wang Yu went to Australia to collaborate with a cult director called Brian Trenchard Smith, who did movies like Dead End Drive-In, B-Mix Bandits with Nicole Kidman, and Turkey Shoot, great exploitation film. And they did a movie together, The Man from Hong Kong, which is an action movie, a martial arts movie, combined with the mood of the 007 franchise. It feels a little bit like that. One of the actors that plays in the film, that acts in the film, is George Lazenby, and George Lazenby portrayed James Bond on one occasion. And this is again an entertaining movie. Sammo Hung is also in this one, and yeah, this is the. I do believe I only own 2 films of Jimmy Wang Yu on Blu-ray. This is a very good one again. Then I believe it is 1976 when Jimmy Wang Yu did this movie. In 1975 a movie was released that was very popular called The Flying Guillotine, about this long distance weapon that was used to behead enemies of the emperor, and he wanted to capitalize on that one, and he did a sequel. This was a sequel to the One-Armed Boxer. The original title is One-Armed Boxer versus Master of the Flying Guillotine, and this is my favorite Jimmy Wang Yu film. His creativity in the fight scenes are amazing, and this one also popularized the tournament fighter, because there's a tournament scene, I think it lasts for 25 minutes, which has almost nothing to do with the plot, but it has a lot of fights in it that are wonderful to look at. I think they were choreographed by Lauka Lung and Lauka Wing. Some amazing characters in this film. Very good soundtrack by a German new wave band in those days. And yeah, this is a fantastic film. I think this is the best release of the film that was ever put out. It's not, the film is not restored properly, but it's the best it looked ever, I think. It's in widescreen. There's a dubbed version in this DVD set and a version in the original language. Some interviews with Jimmy Wang Yu, and yeah, I love this film. My favorite Jimmy Wang Yu film, this one, Master of Flying Guillotine. And in 1976 this movie came out, the worst Jimmy Wang Yu film I have seen in my young life, The Killer Meteors, directed by Wei Lo, I believe. And 30 years ago, this tape, I think it's 30 years old, it was promoted as a Jackie Chan film, but it is a Jimmy Wang Yu film. They even used a still from another movie to promote it as a Jackie Chan film. The truth is that Jackie Chan only is 7 minutes in this movie. Now, I believe 88 Films is going to release this film, and I think that's a disappointing choice. All those great Jimmy Wang Yu films you can pick to restore, and they are restoring the Killer Meteors. It's a bad film. It's still promoted as a Jackie Chan film. I saw the new artwork, and Jackie Chan gets top billing. I think that's just false advertisement. But the story is lackluster. There are a lot of plot twists that don't make any sense, but also the fights are below par. There is a fight between Jackie Chan and Jimmy Wang Yu in this movie, but it's partially filmed in wide shots, and you can clearly see that neither Jimmy Wang Yu or Jackie Chan are really participating in this fight. It ends on a very cheesy Deus Ex Machina. It's not a good film. My advice is don't buy the 88 Films and the new release. You're gonna watch it once, you're never gonna watch it again, because it's simply a bad movie. Yeah, that was what I wanted to say about this one. But it is an historically important movie because Jimmy Wang Yu and Jackie Chan became friends. Wei Lo had a production company, wouldn't let Jackie Chan go. He was on the contract, and then Jimmy Wang Yu pulled some strings. I think I read that he used some connections with riots, and Jackie Chan was freed from his contract. And as a favor to Jimmy Wang Yu, because Jimmy Wang Yu wasn't big in the 80s anymore, and he wanted to have a comeback, of course, Jackie Chan appeared in two of his movies, two movies that Jimmy Wang Yu produced. This is the first one, Fancy Mission Force, I believe 83. I don't know much about it anymore. It is a mix of adventure movie and a war movie. Brigitte Lin is in it. That is one thing I do know for sure. And he appeared, Jackie Chan, in this movie that Jimmy Wang Yu produced. And this is a very cheap DVD. Contains a movie from 1990. As you can see, Jackie is spelled misspelled. It's Island of Fire. Great cast with Andy Lau, Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Tony Leung Ka-fai, I believe he is, and Jimmy Wang Yu himself. But it's not a very strong movie. It's a very episodic prison movie. I think they wanted to capitalize on the success of the Prison on Fire series, and this is a bad DVD that I probably won't upgrade. But yeah, it is in my collection, so I had to show you this one. And the last movie that I own where Jimmy Wang Yu was in is Sammo Hung's fantastic Millionaires Express, aka Shanghai Express, and Jimmy Wang Yu has a cameo in this one as the father of a young Wang Fei Hung, the hero of the people. Yeah, this was my collection vid. If you've never heard of Jimmy Wang Yu and you want to try out some movies, then I'll give you my top 5. Because, skip Killer Meteors, skip it. The worst movie that I saw from Jimmy Wang Yu. But at number 5, I would advise you to watch this one, Zatoichi Meets the One-Armed Swordsman, international hit. I would advise you to watch the first real Kung Fu movie in the 70s, The Chinese Boxer, very good film. The Assassin, a very underrated swordplay film that no one talks about, but it's a very good film. The One-Armed Swordsman, very important movie, popularized wuxia genre, very good. And of course, my favorite, Master of Flying Guillotine. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.